If you were to ask me what is the most important thing to implement in your life so that you reduce the mental load, I honestly don't know what my answer would be, but today's episode is all about the answer that would definitely be up there. I don't know if it would be the number one thing, but it is something that truly reduces the mental load for many reasons. First of all, it helps you know when to schedule everything. It helps you have peace of mind because you know when things are going to be tackled. You don't have to carry them around with you. And it reduces your kids asking you 50 million times a day, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? When are we going to do the next thing? And that thing is time blocking. Time blocking has saved me tremendous amounts of sanity over the years, and it truly helps me not only to homeschool and balance motherhood on top of that and running a household, but also I have been working alongside homeschooling for years since the beginning. I have watched kids all day. I've watched kids before and after school. I've done a combination of those. I run social media for my best friend's business. I do this business. I also have a part-time job outside the home right now, which will be ending soon, but I juggle so much, but I don't feel super stressed all the time. And that is mainly because of time blocks. There are many other things that I talk about on this podcast that definitely also play a role, like automating a lot of your life and lots of systems. But time blocking itself is such an amazing framework. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share my actual time blocks and how they work for me. I'm going to share why time blocking is so important and why it's different than having a schedule. And I'm going to give you some tips if you do not implement time blocks already and how you can implement them in your own day. Glue. It's messy, it's sticky, it gets everywhere, but without it, nothing holds. Homeschool life can feel messy too. We have the loud days, the mental overload, so many moving parts. But what we don't need is more curriculum or more pressure to do it all. We need something that holds, simple systems, steady rhythms, the kind of structure that makes homeschooling easier instead of heavier. Hi, I'm Sarah, a homeschool mom of 4, and this is the Homeschool Glue podcast. Each week we have an honest conversation about real homeschool life and the simple systems that help overwhelmed homeschool moms clear the mental clutter, build rhythms that actually stick, and create the peaceful lives we are all craving. If you're tired of carrying everything and getting nowhere, you are in the right place. Grab that load of laundry and let's get started. Welcome back to the Homeschool Glue podcast. I am Sarah, and I am honestly kind of surprised that I haven't had a whole episode about this already, but I was saving this for back to school time. If you are already in the throes of the new school year, don't fret. If you are listening to this much later than when I recorded it, I'm recording it in July of 2026. If you're if you're listening to this in March or January or whatever month, insert month that you're listening here, don't write this off as something you can't start implementing right now. You do not need a fresh new school year. You do not need a fresh calendar year. You do not even need a fresh week or a fresh day to start implementing this. Please do not put your life on hold and wait to start implementing new things until it's a fresh A, B, or C, X, Y, Z. Whatever you're waiting for, don't wait for that. You can start this tomorrow. You don't have to have it perfect to start. In fact, it probably will be really messy at first, but the payoff will be as you work out the kinks, you will eventually have a time block schedule, a time block system, we'll call it, that works for your family in this season. And that's the key. It's going to change over time. And that's kind of the beauty of a time block schedule because it's bigger chunks of time and it is not something that's super rigid. So you can play around within those blocks really easily. So first of all, let's talk about why time blocking matters. First of all, and maybe we should talk about what time blocking is. So time blocking is when you have a flow to your day that is set up in chunks of time. And you might name those chunks if you want, or you might not. And they may have a general time frame, but it's not always determined exactly on time. It's more of a flow to your day, and you're doing certain types of things in each block. And I will be explaining mine and telling you in detail what I do during each block so it will make more sense. But why does this matter? First of all, having a time block flow to your day gives your brain permission to stop juggling. If you go into your day without much of a flow to it, maybe you're very spontaneous, maybe you're more type B, which is lovely and wonderful. We need people like that in the world. Or maybe you're in a new season and you just haven't figured out the right flow to your day. It is very likely that you are carrying in your mind a huge burden of, okay, I have to meal plan. We have all these lessons we need to get in. I got to make sure I go harvest the plants in the garden and I need to go touch up the paint in the laundry room or whatever. You have a whole list of things that you need to do, but you haven't figured out when you're doing them and you have no flow to your day. So you're just holding on to that all of day and your brain has nowhere to just let it go and rest. And when you have time blocks, you have little containers to put all of those different things in, and that way you don't have to carry it around with you. You don't have any what they would call open loops where you're like, I need to do that thing, and then you have to keep reminding yourself so you don't forget because there's nowhere for it to go be contained that you can pick it up later when you get to that block and do it. If it's just a free-for-all with your day and you don't have a flow to it, you have no containers for your time, none of the things that you have on your to-do list have anywhere to go. And so they just live on your shoulders, in your brain, and they truly feel like a huge weight, and it's very stressful. Time blocking also really helps cut back the decision fatigue. If you don't know what decision fatigue is, it's the exhaustion you feel when you have to make decision after decision after decision after decision. Decisions take real mental brain power. They take energy. They kind of can suck the life out of you if you have too many of them in a day. And as moms, especially homeschool moms with little children, I feel like we are constantly making tons of micro decisions all day, not to mention macro decisions like, big topics for our family and big decisions for our kids and what we're going to do and plans for the future. But all those micro decisions like, Mom, can we do this? Mom, can we do that? What should we have for supper? What should we have for lunch? What should we have for breakfast? Can we have a snack now? Can I do this before this? Mom, she hit me, and trying to figure out what to do in all those situations. It's very draining. And so if you can cut back that decision fatigue, you're not going to get rid of your kids. Obviously, you love them and they are a huge source of decision fatigue, but you can't get rid of them. And you're not going to, you don't want to. It sounded bad, but you're not going to get rid of your kids. And so if you can cut back on decision fatigue in other areas of your life by not having to figure out when you're doing all of the things you have to do, you already kind of have that plan from the beginning because there's containers for your time. It helps so much. And so you have a lot more energy to give to your kids who do require a lot of decisions, but it won't be as draining. They also can help your kids have a map for the day so they don't keep asking all the time, Mom, when is it going to be time to go outside? Mom, when are we having lunch? Mom, when are we doing this? Mom, when do we get to have a bath? All of those things, you have a flow to your day. And even your littler ones, they really do well with a routine. I've done so well getting kids on a nap schedule from the beginning. I used to do daycare watching 10 kids in my home, including my own, and I would get them all to nap at the same time. And I think a humongous part of that is just having a flow to the day. They didn't really question it because it was just part of the day that happened at the same time in the same order every single day. And so it's the way I've been able to get all my babies on a nap schedule without crying it out or anything is just from basically the beginning, laying them down at the same time every day and having a rhythm and routine to our day. So even the littler ones, they will just naturally understand the flow of your day without even being able to speak yet. It's pretty amazing. And so it will definitely cut back on them feeling like, when is all of this stuff happening, and then pestering you about it. And it also just makes your home more peaceful because we all do better when we have a sense of what's happening next. And especially for kids who are so not in control of anything in their life for the most part, it helps them feel secure in what's happening next. They have some control over, okay, I know what's happening next. I don't have to ask Mom. And it's really a sense of safety to know what's happening. They also protect what would otherwise get crowded out. So, having time blocks, you can really put boundaries around your time. It's really how I've been able to grow a business is by utilizing early mornings and quiet times. I have trained my children to play on their own. Are they perfect at it? Absolutely not. Especially my 5-year-old right now. She just loves me and I love her and she wants to be around me, but which she is almost all of the time. But during quiet time, they go play and they have to be quiet because our little guy is napping and mama is working and they are old enough to entertain themselves for like an hour and a half every day. And so by protecting that time and saying, this is quiet time, these are the expectations, these are the types of things I get done, I am able to be so productive during those times because I am very focused. Same thing with homeschool. When you have a certain block of time and that's the only time you have in that day and you have other time blocks that will need your attention so you can get other things done, it really helps you focus. And time blocking is just really wonderful because it creates a rhythm, but it's not super rigid. It's flexible. Sometimes we switch it up. You don't have to have it the exact same every single day. You could have certain time block routines for certain days of the week if you have different things going on. But in general, there's a flow to the day, and it's just really helpful. It's easy to fall back on after stressful times or sickness and things like that. When you get out of rhythm, which is totally normal, it's just so nice to be able to pick it back up. And let's talk about for a second how a time block routine is different from like a minute by minute or hour by hour schedule. So a schedule is very rigid. It assigns a task to a time on the clock. A time block is different. It's a much bigger stretch of time and it all has kind of one theme. And you put a bunch of different tasks into that block, but you can move them around. You can do them in whatever order you want. They're not tied necessarily to exact times, but you're kind of grouping like activities with other like activities. Scheduling also really breaks the moment anything doesn't go exactly how you plan and it runs long. So if you are scheduling by certain times and then you have life happen because you have kids and maybe somebody gets sick or the dog gets out or whatever, you feel like you failed because you didn't finish or start at the time you had it planned. With time blocking, you can move them around, they can stretch, they can ebb, they can flow. It's not as big of a deal. A lot of it's just a mindset shift more than anything. Scheduling is more about time, and time blocking is a lot more about intention. So, how you're using your time. And like I said, grouping like activities with other like activities. So, I'm going to take a second and just share with you my time blocks so that you can get a sense of how my morning, how my morning looks, afternoon, evening, and that kind of thing. Now, keep in mind, not every day goes exactly like this. I am going to share times. Some are more time specific because I like, the kids get up at a certain time and I'm ready for the day by a certain time. But a lot of these, I'm giving you times, but they can ebb and flow. And this is how I have my time block set up for right now. I have a 1.5-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, I have an 8-year-old, and I have an 11-year-old. And so this is what works in this season. This isn't going to be how it looks probably in 5 years, but this is what works for our family right now. And this is not exactly how it looks every day, but this is the general flow. Okay. So first of all, I get up at 4 a.m. Now, you don't have to get up at 4 a.m., but I get up because my business is very important to me. My Bible time, my quiet time is very important to me. And that's just when it works to get up because my kids are early risers. And so I get up at 4 a.m. I read the Bible, I pray, I write down some things I'm grateful for, and then I get some work done. So this morning block, I would say runs from about 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. So my kids get up at 6:30, my older kids anyway, who can play on their own and kind of entertain themselves. And then I'm up ready for the day, like around with them at 7. So during my mama morning couple hours, that time block, I'm, like I said, reading the Bible, prayer, gratitude, and work. And then usually around 6 o'clock, I will work out until about 6:30, and then I get ready for the day from 6:30 to 7. Now, most of my time blocks don't have like pockets like that are time specific, but because I need to be ready to go and available to my children by 7, because that's when our little guy gets up, that's why I have it that way. So those are pretty time specific just because I only have these chances to do these things. And I know if I don't work out and I don't get ready then, it's probably not going to happen. So then from about usually 7 to 7:45, we have our like getting ready and breakfast block. So I'll whip up a quick breakfast. We do bulk breakfast on the weekend, so it's really quick and easy during the week to get breakfast on the table. I get my toddler up, we brush teeth, do the kids' hair, they get dressed, and I throw in a load of laundry. So that's usually about 45 minutes that takes. Then we launch right into homeschool time. So homeschool time is whenever that time block before ends until we finish homeschool. So that could be anywhere from like 10 a.m. on an easy day to 11 if it takes longer. And that's not every single subject, but that's like all the subjects that the kids need me for. And now that I have 3, we'll see how that goes because this will be the first year having 3 officially doing school with me. And so we do our family subjects, we do math, we do phonics, we do grammar, science, like all the subjects that they need me for, and lots of books that we read for all of our different subjects happen during that time. And so that's going to look different every week. I have a whole episode on creating a weekly rhythm for your homeschool specifically, and that's basically planning what would go on during that time block. So every day I have different subjects assigned to each day, so that it has figured out. That's something I do in the summer to figure out exactly what I'm going to do during that time block and have it kind of, I wouldn't say scheduled, but I have a routine of like what things we're doing in what order and what subjects happen on each day, because not every day is going to be the exact same subjects because there's lots that we don't do every single day. And so that's the homeschool block. Then whenever that finishes to about 12-ish, we do free play. So if we get done earlier, like if we have a lighter day, we go outside, we go for a walk, we play outside if it's nice out. Then otherwise, we'll just hang out inside. We have lunch. We listen to an audiobook during lunch. It's our like family read aloud. The kids usually will play or do like a dance party after lunch, and then I get our little guy ready for nap. So I lay him down. So somewhere around between like 12 and 12:30, we have our silent reading time. So that is something I've just called that its own block, but I guess that kind of actually goes in our quiet time block. But we always start our quiet time when our little guy is napping with silent reading. So this is 20 minutes where we sit down, my 5, 8, and 11-year-old and I sit down on the couch. We each grab our own book. This is when they read their free reads or a book that they want. Like the summer, they're just reading books that they want. But this school year, they'll be reading the book of their choice from a free reads bin. I have a whole reel about that if you guys are interested. So I can link that in the show notes. But we all have some time to read. And my 5-year-old, who isn't reading independently yet, will look at books, or she'll put headphones on and listen to a Yodo card. So we spend that beginning time of our quiet time just reading. We love it. It's so nice. Such a nice way to start the afternoon. And then from that time until about 2 is quiet time. So after we're done reading, sometimes my kids have extra work to do. They might practice piano, which we have an electronic piano, so they can do that with headphones so it doesn't wake up the toddler. And my oldest does typing. If there's any subjects like they can do on their own that they didn't get to, we will put that to quiet time. But in general, they're mainly just kind of doing their own thing, crafting, playing with friends in the summer, that kind of thing. As long as they're quiet in the house, then they're good. And so that's when I get a lot of work done, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff for my business usually. And then from 2 to 3, I guess this is still kind of a extension of quiet time, but within that they get screen time. And so they have to do educational games on their Kindles for 30 minutes, and then they can do a an approved show or game or movie or whatever for the other 30 minutes. And this works really well for us because, first of all, I'm wrapping up my work. My toddler sometimes wakes up before 3 and sometimes he sleeps until 3. And so this gives us wiggle room where I can keep working, but they're not having to play on their own for a super long time. And if our toddler wakes up, I can put a little show on for him to kind of finish him. He doesn't sit for that long watching a show. He loves monster trucks, but um, it kind of gives him something to do while I'm wrapping up and then finishing my work as well. And it also is a great thing to have them lose as a consequence. So that's just keeping it real. So that's our screen time from about 2 to 3. So quiet time in general is from like 12-ish, 12:30 to 3 most days. Then we go into our, afternoon block. So from about 3 to 5:30, this is when we might go outside. We usually have a snack and I read some stories, and then we might go outside. We might have a play date with a friend. We might do a craft. We might do a handicraft. We might run an errand. It's kind of a flex time. I make a lot of appointments during that time if I can fit them in then. And so that's just a free open time. And then we have supper and family time from about 5:30 to 7:30. We try to eat between 5:30 and 6. So that's when we have dinner. We give baths to the little ones. We hang out together. Sometimes the kids go play with friends in the neighborhood, but in general, we're trying to spend some time together when my husband's home, going for walks. We try to read some books at the end of the day and wind down. And then from about 7:30 to 9 is like wind down bedtime. So our littler ones go down first, and then our oldest kind of goes to bed on her own now. And then my husband and I have an hour, hour and a half, depending on the day, to kind of hang out and take a shower or read a book or whatever. And then, at least for me, he goes to bed a little later, but I go to bed around 9 because I'm getting up at 4, and that is our day in general. Like I said, some days are different, but that is the basic flow, and my kids really just know the flow, so they're not asking lots of questions about when this and that and the other thing are happening because it's all a rhythm. Now that you know my time blocking version that's for right now in this season, I want to help you build your own version and kind of have a framework for your own days. So when I started to create my time blocks originally, I really started with the non-negotiables. So if you're a homeschool mom, homeschool is definitely a non-negotiable. If you have a child who naps, that would be a non-negotiable. If family time is really important to you, or if they have extracurriculars every night or something like that, that would be a non-negotiable. You've already paid the money or it's really important to you. Those are non-negotiables. For me, my business is a non-negotiable because I love it, first of all. Second of all, it helps provide for our family, which is necessary. And so I really stopped and kind of mapped out, okay, when could I work on my business? Well, I can't do it a lot of the day. I could get up early and I could also work on it when my little guy naps. So that's kind of putting two non-negotiables together. So thinking about your day, your typical day, what are some non-negotiables? Make sure you map those out or at least write them down and kind of play around. You could even get out little note cards and cut them down to size based on how long something takes. Like if your toddler naps for 2 hours, you'll cut that a certain size. If you have something that only takes 1 hour, you'll cut that half the size of the 2-hour thing and then write on there. And you can kind of play around and move around to see where they could fit in your day and play around with that. And then also, you're going to need to build around your kids' real needs. So like I said, the toddler's nap, if you have children or a child who has special needs and maybe one part of the day is more stressful than another part of the day, plan the more stressful activities when it works best for them. So like planning homeschool when it makes the most sense for your family. If you have a napper and you can do homeschool for your older kids during that nap, that is amazing. I would recommend that. I don't have that option right now because I need to work on my business, but let me just say when my toddler was still napping in the morning, it was lovely. And we tried to get as much homeschool done during that time as we could. So utilizing stuff like that, and different needs that are, specific to your kids and your family. Then you're going to want to give every block a purpose. So not a timestamp necessarily. You can have a general idea of the time, but you really want to have a purpose for that time. Something I didn't mention when I was talking about my actual time blocks is that I use the free play times. So the morning after homeschool and then our afternoon after quiet time, I use those times to not only spend time with my kids, but I also will use those for domestic tasks. So I'll fold a load of laundry. I will meal plan. I will do a little cleaning here and there. I'll call to schedule an appointment if they're, occupying themselves enough that I can actually do that. Stuff like that, because I think it's really important for our kids to, first of all, see what goes into being a mom, that these things aren't just magically happening when they're not around or when they're asleep. They have to happen. Like, the meals have to be figured out. Like, we have to have food to eat. And so it's good for them to see me meal planning. It's good for them to see a house getting cleaned up. It's good for them to see laundry being done. And obviously they help with a lot of this stuff too. But I think it's really important for them to see these things. I don't want to have to just do it during my only time to myself when I'm not working and not with my kids at the end of the day. I want to just do whatever I want at that time. And I really need that time to just unwind because I do carry a lot, and I'm sure you do too. And so that last block of the day is purposeful in that it's just for whatever I want to do for the most part. I usually just don't schedule much because the chances of me actually doing something productive during that time are pretty slim because I'm tired, and I've kind of claimed that block as my time. And so I very rarely use it for productive things. It's more just for stuff I want to do. So when you're giving each block a purpose, it's okay to have like multiple purposes. So it might be kids' free play time, but it's also mom's time to get a little bit of things done. And maybe each day of the week you have a separate thing that you plan to do during one of those times. Like Monday, you might meal plan. Tuesday, you might fold laundry. Wednesday, you might clean something. Whatever. You don't have to do it that way, but it's nice to kind of tie things together that you can do at the same time. Kind of like how I plan my kids' screen time while I'm wrapping up work and my toddler's waking up. So you can have multiple purposes for one time block, but it's nice to just kind of lay them out. And that way, when you're looking at your week, when something pops up on your to-do list that you need to do, you can look at your day and go, okay, where could I fit this in? And then you can put that task in whatever container it makes the most sense to put it in. If it's a random house task that you can do when your kids are playing, you can put it there. If it's a homeschool task, you can put it there. If it's, a work-related task, I can put it with my work time. Because every time of my day has a purpose, I know where to put everything. And my last tip for building your own time block is to just be okay with it flexing. You don't want this to be so rigid that you abandon it. It is okay for it to flex. It is okay to move things to different days. It is okay if one block runs long and one block runs short. That is totally normal. And that is honestly the beauty of time blocking, is that it's not necessarily time specific. So you can let it ebb and flow. And you don't have to feel like a failure, because that is what it is designed to do. A rhythm can really survive a hard day. And I also just want to encourage you one more time that if your kids are sick, if you are pregnant and feeling really ill, if you have a tragedy you're going through, if you're going through some kind of crisis in your life, if your child was just diagnosed with something, whatever it may be that's kind of thrown your life off tracks, it is okay to let this go. Does it help to have a rhythm? Yes, it definitely could still help during this time. It actually could be extremely helpful during this time. But if it's daunting, or you need to scrap it and kind of start over and make a much looser time block routine, that is great. That's wonderful. Please do that. You don't have to keep your time blocks and feel stuck to them. The whole goal of these is to help you. And so if it's not helping you, then you can abandon it. You could change it. I know when my dad was in the hospital 3 years ago, my time blocks changed a lot because I had to add in go visit my dad at the hospital. And I took a lot off my plate at that time. And so my time blocks looked different, but it was still nice. Not still nice. It was still essential for my kids, especially, and for me to have some kind of system because I already had so much stress and worry and anxiety that played into my mothering, and my kids could feel it and they were feeling stressed. And so behaviors obviously get exacerbated on all fronts when you're going through something like that. And so having a rhythm to our day, even though it was a lot different during that time, was so healthy and good for my kids and for me. And honestly, I have a whole episode on this of why we continued using systems and routines during that time. Um, and I'll link that in the show notes. But in general, it was so nice for me to continue homeschooling because it gave me something to think about other than what was going on in my life for a little bit of time. It gave my brain a break from the worry. So you definitely don't have to continue during stuff like that, or you don't have to continue all of the things on your plate. But having the time blocks can still really help, but you may need to tweak them a little bit. And then one last thing I wanted to address, because I'm sure it's something you're wondering, is how do weekends look different than weekdays? Do we still follow our time blocks on the weekend? Now, for us in our season and the way my husband and I do it is that we do have a very loose time block system on the weekends, but it's a lot more flexible and a lot more open. So we can drag and drop different things into each block. So for us, having a toddler at home, like we've never not had a napper in our family at this point. It's been 11 years and we've always had an afternoon napper. And so while we can, go to the science museum and push back our toddler's nap, it's still definitely something we have to consider into our days because if he misses his nap, he doesn't nap the best in the car. It's often a lot of crying and screaming for a very long time if he wakes up or if he can't fall asleep. And so we definitely still need to consider that on the weekends. If you don't have nappers, then you can definitely mix this up however you want. But for us, especially if we're not going anywhere or we're not doing anything like out of town on the weekends, this has been really lovely to still have that quiet time. Our toddler still needs to nap, so that allows him to do that. It allows our kids to have time to go play or to be creative, and it allows my husband and I to get some stuff done that we couldn't get done during the week. So this is some extra cleaning, bill paying, mowing the lawn, yard work, stuff like that, or just, sometimes I use it just to have some time to myself. I've been really trying to have more of a Sunday Sabbath. So like fitting in learning how to watercolor or bullet journaling and stuff like that, I try to fit in during that quiet time. In general, our main blocks on the weekend are getting up. The kids usually get to have some screen time in the mornings and just kind of slowly wake up on the weekends. And then we have a really big open block for anything we want to do in the morning. Then we have our quiet time, and then we have a big block in the afternoon. And then we have like our supper wind down time, which is pretty normal. My husband and I usually stay up later on the weekends and get up later. So I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. on the weekends. But it's still kind of a similar routine, but there's a lot fewer blocks and we can, move things around and it's a lot more flexible because it's the weekend and we don't have to follow as much because there's less we have to fit in one day most weekends. So, if you've been listening to this and it has been helpful, I just want to briefly mention that you should definitely be following me on Instagram and be on my email list. I out a weekly newsletter, which is just a fun look behind my week. And I share some things that I've shared online. So if you missed anything, I've been sharing a lot that we've been doing lately to get ready for the new school year. Our free reads bins, the different notebooks that we're using, all kinds of things. So definitely sign up for that and follow me on Instagram because I have some pretty amazing major things coming in the next month or two that will drastically help moms, especially homeschool moms, to balance the mental load, not even balance, but manage the mental load, reduce the mental load, reduce stress, Come up with systems, stay on top of things, implement new systems, figure out what works in your life, and have a place to put everything that's on your mind. I have a couple things coming, so definitely stay tuned. I can't share a lot yet, but just know I'm working like crazy behind the scenes to get everything ready for you. I cannot wait. This could be the school year that you truly can make huge changes in your life that will not only benefit you, but benefit your family and open up time and brain power so that you can bless others in your life as well. Because when we're stressed, we can't give to others like we can when we feel freedom and peace in our bodies and our minds. So definitely stay tuned, but be following me on Instagram and be following me on my email list. So you'll be the first to know what these things are that I've been working on and when they drop. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I hope this episode was helpful. I pray before every episode that this blesses real moms and can make a difference in your life. So I truly hope this added a little light and a little joy to your day and can be helpful for you. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Happy homeschooling. I pray this episode blessed you and gave you something useful that will make homeschooling easier or more fulfilling. If this episode made you feel seen or gave you one thing to change this week, would you please share it and leave a review? That's how more homeschool moms who are struggling with overwhelm can find something that actually helps. You can always find me on Instagram at homeschoolglue, where we talk simple systems, rich learning, and the real version of homeschool life.